All right, everyone, welcome to the Introduction to Map Suite Silverlight Edition 3.0. This is our latest webinar in our webinar series that we've been having about every month. My name is Clint Batman, and I'll be your host today. And let's go ahead and get started. For those of you that have never attended one of our webinars before, you can use the question feature included in the webinar software to ask any questions as we go through these this presentation, and we'll do our best to answer these at the either during or at the end of the presentation. And if for some reason we can't answer it immediately, we will be sending out the PowerPoint along with a video recording of the webinar and any questions and answers that came up during the webinar. So I invite you to please ask lots of questions and use the question answer section of your GoToMeeting or GoToWebinar software to do that, and we'll do our best to get those answered. Well, what I want to talk about today is our new Map Suite Silverlight Edition, which is currently out in beta. And this is a brand new product from ThinkGeo. And some of you may be very new to Silverlight, as it's a very recent technology from Microsoft. So kind of our agenda of what I have planned out today is to start out just giving a brief overview of what Silverlight technology is, some of its benefits, some of its advantages, some of its disadvantages, and what Silverlight actually gives you. After we have that kind of framework laid out, we'll then dive into what Map Suite Silverlight Edition gives you from a mapping and GIS component standpoint. So we'll talk a little bit about the Silverlight platform and technology, and then dig into the Map Suite side of things specifically. After those slides, we'll then dig into some of the online sample applications that we have using our Silverlight Edition. And these are also included in the evaluation downloads. So if you've already downloaded it, you may have seen some of these, but I thought it would be a good demonstration to show what's possible with our Map Suite Silverlight product, and to give you an idea of what the code behind kind of looks like, and talk about what's going on behind the scenes there a little bit. And then finally, we'll just do some brief slides on where to get help and learn more about the product and Silverlight in general, and then do some Q&A and wrap everything up. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. So many of you may not have much experience with Silverlight, so I thought I'd start out with just explaining a little bit about what Silverlight is. It's a new platform that Microsoft has developed that allows for very rich internet applications. So over the course of the last 10 to 15 years with the internet coming online, there's been many different evolutions of developing applications through a web browser. And to date, ASP.NET's been the most popular one, and there's been things like Ajax and things of those nature that have made web applications very rich with the current architecture and environment. However, there's still kind of a disconnect between some of the user experience you feel like in a desktop application versus a web application. And there's a lot of complexity in dealing with Ajax and things of those nature on typical web type of environments. So what Microsoft did is they developed Silverlight, which is a technology that requires a browser plugin, and it will run Silverlight applications in that. So you kind of get the best of both worlds. You can run your applications inside of a browser, but you can code it all in .NET, and you get kind of more of that rich type of user interface. And I think when we get to the samples, that'll show up a little bit of what I mean there. It's just a different feel than a typical web application. A lot of people say this is Microsoft's answer to Adobe Flash technology. I don't know if a lot of you've seen different Flash places out on the web where they'll do a lot of animation and graphic art and media type things. Well, Silverlight has a lot of that functionality built into it as well. So above and beyond just developing applications with it, you can use it for giving rich media experiences and things of that nature. And so there's a lot of similarities of what the capabilities of Flash and Silverlight are, at least at a high level. Some other goals that Microsoft had when they came up with Silverlight is allowing developers to develop code and applications and allowing designers to make things look really nice. And so they have a great model where developers can use Visual Studio to build up Silverlight applications using your standard tools and C# and VB.NET and that environment that programmers are very comfortable in. Well, they have another product called Expressions Blend that allows graphic designers to lay out Silverlight things and things of that nature, which is more of what probably graphic designers are used to using when building some Flash animation and things of that nature. Finally, Silverlight is using Example for the user interface layout and support through Visual Studio. So if you have had a chance to work much with WPF and some of the recent technologies with the new .NET Framework 3.5, a lot of the layout and things of that's going to be very familiar with you since Silverlight has extensive use of Example. So that's kind of it in a nutshell of a high-level overview of what Silverlight is and some of the key concepts anyways. So what are the advantages of Silverlight versus a web application? Well, the first one again is the rich user experience. It's just a little richer experience. You don't have postbacks and things of that nature. It's just more of a seamless type of UI and experience. The other big advantage is cross-platform browser support. If you've developed a lot of open web applications, you probably have come across, well, it works in IE, but it doesn't work in Firefox, or it doesn't work on the Mac on Safari. And now we got other browsers coming to market like Chrome, and of course Opera's been out there for many years. And it's always been a big challenge to get your applications to work well in all of these different browsers. And with all these new browsers coming out, users want to have their pick of what browser that meets their needs. So one nice thing about Silverlight is Microsoft has developed the browser download for all of these different types of browsers, so you can build your application once and it'll run on any of them browsers. So if you're looking to have an application that's open to the public or things of that nature, or cross-platform where you have a lot of Mac users, this is a big advantage because you can get a lot of functionality and only have to write and maintain your code once. You don't have to have the headache of doing cross-platform browser support. Additionally, Silverlight allows you to leverage your current .NET skills. So if you're already a C# or a VB.NET developer, you don't need to learn a new tool really. You can do everything in Visual Studio, and I mean there are some differences definitely, but the learning curve is much smaller than say if you were going to different technologies such as Flash. Finally, some other advantages are the server deployment model. So if you do make changes to your application, it's easy to update because you just put a new package up on the server, and the next time the client goes to that URL, it's all updated seamlessly. So you don't have to worry about building elaborate installs and things of that nature. So kind of a nice deployment model. And finally, isolated storage. With web applications, you're limited to pretty much doing everything server side. With Silverlight, you have choices of what you want to do client and or server side. And one of the nice things is you can have a sandbox on the client machine to store certain data files and things of that nature that are isolated on that machine and have access on the client through that mechanism. So kind of some neat technology things there that are some advantages to using Silverlight. Some things to be aware of if this is your first Silverlight application and you're looking to potentially build this. Since it is running on the client, there is a reduced .NET class library available. So you won't have the full power of the .NET framework for everything on the client side. For example, you're not going to be able to natively go to a SQL Server database and query data, through a stored proc or something along those lines. You're going to have to break that out and make those calls via a web service or some other network type of call, because the reduced .NET class library just has certain restrictions there on the client side. Since it is also running on a client, there's limited access to other system resources like the registry and other things that that need to be protected when pulling an application over the web. And finally, there's just a little bit of different mindset, I guess, when you're architecting and designing Silverlight applications versus web applications, because you have a lot more choices of where you want to store your data, client versus server, where you want your work to be done, client versus server, and how big a download do you want the package to be, and things of that nature. So there are some considerations when building your Silverlight application that you should be aware of. For more information on this, I would encourage anybody that's new to Silverlight to go out to the link here at MSDN and read the documentation on it, and it steps through all of the the programming models and things of that nature, which is a good read if you're brand new to Silverlight. And again, if you need this link, the presentation will be available at the and posted on the website probably tomorrow, so you can get to it from there. All right, so that's kind of a background of Silverlight. Now let's dig into what Map Suite Silverlight Control gives you. And again, it all comes back to the user experience. Our web edition has a very rich user experience now with using Ajax and things of that nature. But if you even want a little bit more to give yourself a desktop feel inside of a web browser, and you're open to using Silverlight, the Map Suite Silverlight Edition may be for you. We've got built-in tools for panning, zooming, displaying coordinates, scale bars, all the things that you would expect in our map controls. Also, the performance of it seems very slick and very fast. As you pan around, the images will fill in automatically, and it kind of gives a neat user experience feel. So that's one of the big advantages, is just a richer user experience. The other thing to consider is a lot of Silverlight controls out there are very lightweight and basically just for viewing stuff and things of that nature. We didn't want to take this approach with our product line. We wanted to make it a full GIS, have full GIS and mapping capabilities. So you'll find full control over the map rendering with all our various styles that we have in our other versions. We have support for projection. You'll be able to do track shape drawing and editing, which is pretty neat in Silverlight. And we also have all the standard things that you would see with our other products, such as being able to do spatial queries and do geometric functions like buffering and unioning and differencing, and all the things that you've come accustomed with our other Map Suite products. And then finally, we do support different map data from various sources. The beta that we have out now is somewhat limited on what we support, as we've got shapefile feature supported, and we've got some other samples in there for doing in-memory layers. So if you had data from your database that you're retrieving from a web service, you can plot them over on the map. But in the next beta, we're going to be looking to add on to that list to have other background maps like Google and raster imagery and things of those nature. So finally, some other advantages of using Map Suite Silverlight kind of go along with with our other Map Suite components and just the Silverlight platform in general. It's extensible, so you can inherit from a lot of our classes and build your own custom classes to meet your exact requirements. So just like with any of our other 3.0 product lines, Silverlight's the same way. You can extend and build your own feature layers. You can extend and build your own support for custom functionality. The other advantage is that if you've done much with our web or our desktop or our services edition, the Silverlight edition is going to be very similar, so you're not going to have a huge learning curve or anything along those lines, because working with the map is the API is virtually the same where it can be. And then finally, the other advantages of using Map Suite Silverlight are just things built into the framework itself, an easy deployment model, similar to like the web, and then having the cross-platform capabilities for doing work on the Mac and Firefox and Chrome and various browsers. All right, well, enough of the PowerPoints. Let's go ahead and dig into some of these sample applications. And I'm going to be using the sample applications that are actually hosted on our website. So if you ever want to come back to these and look at them, you certainly can. And we'll go over just some basic things that show us panning and zooming and plotting some points and doing some of the GIS and mapping functionality that you would expect in our other products, but just show how it works in Silverlight. So I am going to just pull over a browser here on top of the PowerPoint. And I'm going to use Chrome just to show that it is cross-platform capable. And I know Chrome's becoming a popular browser from Google, so I think maybe a lot of you already have it. But if not, you can run these samples in virtually any browser. So let's get started here. These are all the samples, and basically the whole pane here is a Silverlight application. We've got our navigation menus over here on the left-hand side that will load up the various user controls that we have in our samples that show different functionality. So anywhere we click on this web page, we've implemented actually some nice things. You can see that it's a Silverlight plugin that way. We also have built-in zooming and panning where you can zoom in and out very easily with the zoom bar. And right now we're using the deep zoom control, and we will be switching to our own zoom control soon because there's been some performance problems with the deep zoom control from Microsoft. So look for that probably in the next beta. But as you can see, it gives a real nice feel when you want to pan around the map. You can pan by hitting these buttons. You can pan by dragging. If I wanted to do things like in this sample, we're showing how to change a background color. You can see how responsive and how fast it is. Just by clicking the one, it instantly redraws the map. And the reason for this is because this rendering is actually happening client-side in the Silverlight control. So it's using your computer resources instead of going a full round trip to the server to do this rendering. So that's kind of a neat feature where you can do some real nice effects by using the power of the client's machine. If we look at the source code here, a lot of this will be very similar to what you've seen with our other products. We have basically the same properties where you set your map unit and you just set your background color. We have overlays similar to our web and our desktop, to where you add your layers to the overlay and set the drawing order and things of that nature and set your current extent. So the code to do these types of applications is very small and very similar to what our other products represent. Okay, so let's look at a few other examples of some cool things you can do with the Silverlight Edition. Just like with the Web Edition, we have the concept of markers where you can plot points on the map. And as you can see, the markers look really nice. We got the little pop-up bubbles when you hover over them, and you can do your own tool tips. And you've got full control over the rendering, the coloring, and the labeling of all of that. So from a mapping standpoint, really the options are limitless for doing points of interest and having a nice fast type of pop-up or tooltip functionality. Another common feature that people love to see in the web is pop-ups, and we have this in our Web Edition, so we also support it in our Silverlight. You can see here we're doing a pop-up and we're actually showing an image and having some other text and things of that nature. So pop-ups are all supported in the Silverlight Edition as well. And you can see it all reacts very quickly, and it has just a nice, rich user feel. And if you zoom in and zoom out, it'll automatically adjust and do some other things that you would expect to do. Since it is a full-fledged map control, all the events are there that you would expect as well. So we have the click event. The click event will allow you to click and add points In this example, we're capturing the click event and adding markers wherever we click. So it's a very fast, very responsive type of user experience. We also have the track zooming capability. So if you hold down your Shift key, the track zooming is built in and will automatically zoom into to the area that you selected. So kind of a standard feature across all of our products, but again, there's the Silverlight and gives that extra little flashiness to it. And just like what we did with the points, you can also do your queries to find out where you clicked on. So for example, I just clicked on China. I can highlight that very easily. I can show the population and everything else in a tooltip. So it just has that really polished feel for a web application. So as we go around this, it'll pop up the nice labels. And to look at the source code on this, it's again very similar to what you would see in the web edition and or the desktop edition. We just capture the map one click event. We get our layer that we want to query. We create a highlight layer that will be the highlighted country that was clicked, and add the pop-ups and everything accordingly, and set our text and our labels and all of that. So pretty straightforward from a coding standpoint to have that functionality. So that's really good if you're looking to have maps that you want to click on and get information from. You know, plotting a point is very easy too. So if you're tracking something from like a GPS unit, all of that's available in our map control. It takes longitude, latitude, or whatever coordinate system you're working with. You can easily plot the points. Also, we've got some other built-in map tools that you might be interested in. Of course, we've got the pan zoom bar here, which I talked a little bit about earlier. A lot of times when people want to show the longitude and latitude coordinates when they're moving their mouse around, so it's probably maybe a little hard for you to see, but in the bottom right-hand corner, as I move the mouse around, the longitude and latitude coordinates are changing. And we've got that in 3 different formats with long, lat long, and then decimal degrees seconds, so you can choose the format that you need for your users. We've got scale line, which shows the scale down here at the bottom left, things of that nature, and then an overlay switcher. If you have more than one overlays, you can easily turn off or on the different overlays. So some neat map tools that come with it that save you a lot of work and kind of give you that experience that you would like to see in a mapping control. Some of the other events that we have, for example, is anytime you zoom around the map or change anything, we raise an event to you. So like in this example, we're adjusting the current scale and telling you the current extent. So that's a handy event that we can get very easily in the Silverlight Edition, where with the web it can be done, but it's a little bit different because everything's pulling in via tiles and things of that nature. So having that flexibility of it being more like a desktop application almost has some advantages, with some events being raised and being able to tailor your code to exactly what you need. You can, just like we did with the click and the query to show the tooltips and highlight, you can also click and zoom in automatically by getting the bounding box of the feature that you clicked on and automatically zooming in. So that's kind of nice if you're wanting to click on various countries and zoom into to where they're at. We do have support for projection. Like I mentioned, we're using Proj 4 as our projection engine. The current beta doesn't have very many samples. I'm sure we'll be adding on to that in the near future to give you more examples of what projections would be supported and things of that nature. But with Proj 4, that projection library, you can virtually use any projection or use well-known text or any SPG numbers to do projection on the fly. Okay, we've also got some really nice functionality for drawing and editing shapes. So if your application needs people to be able to, say, draw polygons or squares or things of that nature, you can draw them and you can rotate them and do all that neat sort of stuff. Also, we've got the capability to do editing, where you can pull out the vertices, you can drag the point, you can rotate it, shrink it, or enlarge it. And it's very similar to what we have in our other products as well, but gives that common, consistent theme and feeling, which is some neat functionality to have in an application like this. And just like we did it there with rectangles and polygons, I mean, the same thing applies with doing lines. You can do it with circles, of course, and ellipses. So, and points. And all of those are editable as well. And you edit them just by adding the shape to our edit overlay, which then allows you to get all the tools for editing, such as drawing vertices or pulling out vertices and doing all the rotation and resizing and things of that nature. So very easy to code to do something like that. Basically, you just set the track mode of your edit overlay to what you're wanting, and then once it's finished, you can then grab the shape from the edit overlay and apply it to your data source. So if you're looking to do some of these things, I'd invite you to look and download the samples and look at the code, because it's pretty straightforward to do these types of things. Pretty powerful stuff. Just like our other products, the Silverlight Edition supports zoom levels. So as you zoom in and zoom out, you have control over how everything looks on the map. So you can apply different styles and different themes to the map as you zoom in or zoom out. So for example, if I zoom out here, I change the markers to blue. If I zoom in, they go to red. If I zoom in further, they go to yellow. So it's a very simple example, but you can even do the things to change the symbology besides the color. You can change all your different styles and things of that nature. So zoom levels are a key part of our product and work just like they do with all of the other editions, where you can set a style for one zoom level and apply it to as many zoom levels you want. And you can also use that capability to hide or display information at various levels. So let's talk a little bit about overlays. We talked a little bit about the edit feature overlay, but let's see if let's talk a little bit about WMS overlays. Silverlight supports using WMS web services just like our other products do. So if you have WMS web services that you want to subscribe to or you want to pull data from over the internet, you can easily add them to your maps just like a WMS overlay. In this example, we're pulling this one. It's a simple WMS server we have set up on our site here. It just pulls down the United States and the state boundaries and some of the major cities. And you can easily add that to your map by just adding a regular overlay. And if you've worked with our web or our desktop editions, can be very similar for the same way in the Silverlight. So kind of a neat way to pull in other maps from other data sources if you're familiar with WMS. And again, to look at the code for something like this, it's pretty crazy how simple it is. You just create your WMS overlay, give it a name, then give it the URL to the WMS server, tell it what layers you want to want to call on it, and then add those layers to your overlays, and boom, you've got a real simple map up and running in no time. So kind of a neat feature, and something I think is starting to get more and more traction in the mapping world is WMS and other web services to serve up some of the base map data. So kind of a neat thing if you're interested. Now there's a couple different ways. We haven't talked much about loading data from various sources. Like with our samples, a lot of them are actually loaded and rendered on the server, and then just passed down to the client with a map controller. And that works well for most cases, but sometimes you may actually want the data locally on the client for some reason. And so that's where you can actually load the shapefile from the isolated storage on the client. So in this example, you can click the button and it'll actually pull down the shapefile from the server, put it on the isolated storage, and then render it locally on the map. And we can take a little bit of a look at this code. And this code is a little more complex because you have to deal with the file handling and the writing the stuff to isolated storage and things of that nature. But when you're dealing with Silverlight applications, that's some of the advantages, is you have access to that storage location on the client's machine. So it's definitely something to know as you're going to architect Silverlight applications. But for example, in this one, we're pulling the shapefile, and we're pulling all 5 parts of the shapefile from the resources that are embedded in our Silverlight application, and we're writing it to the isolated storage. And this shows how to do that using some of the class libraries available to you in the Silverlight framework. So kind of a neat concept if you want to use that sandbox on the client machine to store some data and things of that nature. All right, just like our other products, 3.0 is very extensible. You can easily inherit from a lot of our objects and add your own custom functionality to them. In this example, it's a very simple example where we're adding, let's see, what are we inheriting from? We are inheriting from the shapefile feature layer, and we're adding some security levels on it. So in this case, we wanted to have some security controls on top of the feature level to control some rendering. And as we change the security admin level to user levels, different parts of the application will be hidden. So for example, if I have user level 1, I can't see the state boundaries. So we have full support for extending, just like we do in the desktop, the services, and the web. And if any of you haven't had a chance, you might check out our Extending Map Suite webinar series. You can find in there how to build your own feature sources, your own feature layer, your own custom styles, and things of that nature. So kind of a nice thing to know about if you ever find yourself in a bind where you need to do some more custom type of functionality. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the geometric and GIS functionality in the Silverlight Edition. And for those of you that have used our other products, this is going to be very, very similar again. But for those of you that are new, we have the capability to do spatial queries. So for example, we've drawn this rectangle on top of the map here, and we've done a spatial query to find any of the states that are completely within that rectangle. As you can see, Colorado is highlighted there. If we wanted to change this to say disjointed, that's going to highlight all of the shapes that are outside of that rectangle. And so there are all sorts of different types of spatial queries you can do based upon your geometries, such as intersecting, touching, containing, and topological equals. So with that, you can do a lot of analysis to find the relationships between the different geography and the different shapes. So really nice APIs for doing spatial querying. All right. Well, we've been doing a bunch here in using Chrome. Why don't we switch back over and load some of these up using IE now. So let me pull over IE, Internet Explorer, and this is actually Internet Explorer 7. And I'll show you some of the other functions that are available to you in the control. You can do buffering. So you can buffer, like in this place we buffered a rectangle and gave it a smooth buffer control, you know, however you want along those lines. So just not limited buffer polygons, you can buffer points, lines, and virtually any geometric shape. So that's really good if you want to do, like a lot of times you have a point, you want to do a radius circle around it. You can do a point, buffer it by a certain distance, get your shape, which is circle around it, and then do a spatial query to find anything either inside or outside that. So pretty neat stuff from a geometry library standpoint. Some area, in this sample, we're clicking stage on this nice look and feel. So neat stuff. Shortest distance, it'll figure out the shortest distance between two shapes. So you have, you know, a point here and another polygon over here. It'll find the shortest distance between those and allows you to do nice kind of in this in California, and I want to go to Maine. You can see as I draw it, it has actually two lines there. It has the shortest distance with the arc using gray circle, and it's got the straight line across there, which is the dashed. So we've got both ways of creating those lines, depending on your functionality that you need. And that's one of the nice things about Silverlight is it's just when you're drawing, you see how responsive this is with that pop-up and everything changing. So it's almost like a desktop application type of feel. Versus this would be brief to do a web application. The next thing I want to talk about is the context menus. With Silverlight, you can easily add more context menus where you can say zoom in, zoom out. You can do center here. You can do change background and your own context menus. And these are available anywhere in the application. So, for example, we got some cooking here to where we can hide the instructions, and where we can zoom out, and where we can zoom in. So nice little ways to do context menus and some other things that are really neat and specific to Silverlight. Okay, well, one thing I didn't go into and that we don't have in the evaluation edition right now is all of our different styles. And we'll be adding samples on those, on how to use those different styles inside Silverlight. So probably in the next beta we'll have another rendering. With that, I'm going to do a demonstration and a PowerPoint slide here. And again, if you have any questions on this, please feel free to type them into the question answer box so we can have some Q&A at the end of this webinar. All right, so what are the next steps? Where do you go to find help and where to learn more? Well, probably the best way is to download our free evaluation version out on our website. We've got, I believe it's a 60-day evaluation. It comes with all those sample apps I just demonstrated with all the source code in C# and I believe VB.NET as well. And that'll get you started on just some, getting the basic functionality working in there. We've also got a quick start guide out there that shows how to build your first Silverlight application, from adding the controls to the toolbox and setting up your user controls and setting up your XAML and some of the various stuff like that. Also, if you have any questions at all, I'd encourage you to visit our discussion forums. Our discussion forums have been really active with 3.0, and we've made a very concerted effort to answer them in a timely manner and give very good responses. We have one set up for Silverlight Edition 3.0. There's not a lot out there yet since the product's so new, but as you can see, if we look at the web and the desktop discussion forums, they're extremely active, and we have our development team monitoring these. This is where we get a lot of feedback from our customers of finding out what they want, what they're trying to accomplish. So I would suggest any of you, if you have questions, if there's things that you don't like about the product, things you would like to see, please post them out here. Our developers love to hear from you. They love to hear what you're trying to accomplish, and we like to provide our feedback out here as well so the whole community can see. So I'd encourage any of you to monitor these and post any questions you have out there as well. The How Do I sample applications that come with the Evaluation Edition are good to work with. They'll show you the basic ways to how to use the map for your needs. So that's typically where I point people when they're looking to learn more, is to step through the code on them and find out how the API calls work and how to implement them. And then also we've got the ThinkGeo developer blog. And that's another good one that if you have an RSS reader, it might be good to subscribe to, because we're always putting nice little tidbits out there on how to do various things. We also announce our webinars out there. There's here's one on how to create custom styles. There's one on here on how to do PDF printing and things of those natures. So it's kind of a nice resource to learn more about what's available in Map Suite and what you can do to stay in touch. So. Also wanted to let you know that we're going to be having another webinar. I believe it's it's May 13th, so that'd be basically 2 or 3 weeks from today at the same time. And I will not be your host for that. David Rehagen will be. He's our Map Suite Chief Architect. And he's going to be exploring a topic of extending layers and creating your own layers. I think in his example, he's going to make his own raster layer inherited from the raster layer or from the layer class. So if you enjoyed this webinar or our previous ones, there'll probably be some emails going out, or we'll have a sign up on the website probably later this week to where you can attend that webinar as well. So with that, let's go to some questions. Looks like we've had a few come in here during the course of the presentation. So if you have any other questions, please feel free to answer them in here or post them in here, and I'll do my best to answer them. If I don't know the question or don't know the answer, we'll post it out on the discussion forums and get some of the development team to take a look at it and get these questions resolved. Okay, looks like somebody was saying they were having some audio issues during the webinar. If that was the case, we will be sending out a recording of the webinar, and you can watch the movie there, and there shouldn't be any noise quality issues there. I would hope not anyways, because it's being recorded locally. So that will hopefully you didn't experience any problems, but if you did, you can use that. Okay, here's a question. We are focused on evaluating the performance of overlaying objects that move similar to the GPS sample for the desktop and web. The Silverlight beta currently uses around 50% CPU, I'm assuming, overlaying just a few point shapes that each update about once a second. In production will need to update hundreds of overlay markers. Is this product going to be able to support this case? I think that was Nate that asked that. Thanks for the question, Nate. Yeah, we found that the CPU usage is tied a lot to the deep zoom control we have in the map, and we're currently working on removing that dependency and having our own zoom control, and that should help the CPU performance out quite a bit. I know the current beta we have is a little sluggish on the client machine and will spike your CPU in certain situations. At least that's what the development team has isolated it to some degree, and hope to have that fixed and resolved in the next beta, because that'll certainly be a case that we'll need to support and support very well. Okay, the next question is, customers have their own GIS department with Esri products and data sets. Can Map Suite be used as a front end to these back end servers and data? What's the advantage over using the equivalent Esri product? Okay, very good question. Yes, as long as your back end Esri data sets can serve up WMS, you can get them out as shape files, or serve up the data in a way that can be consumed by Map Suite. We're looking to have an extension that will allow you to hook to those data sets more natively coming out in the next couple of months. That would be another option. But as long as it can serve up that information, yes, you can use the Silverlight or the web or the desktop version to do that for the front end. What are some of the advantages? Well, our products are targeted for developers, where a lot of the Esri products are maybe a little heavier and maybe not developer-centric, more of I don't know, you have to have a real heavy platform and things of that nature. Also, our components are royalty-free, so if you're developing an application and you want to deploy it to many users, with Esri's model, you're going to have to pay per seat royalty licensing. The other advantage is we're a true .NET component, so we're built in .NET. We're built on top of the .NET framework, so you don't have to deal with any of the COM interop or any of the other stuff that some of the Esri development objects you do have to deal with. And from a lot of our customers, they say our API is easier to use and easier to implement, and the time of development's a lot quicker than ESRI. Is there a way to convert your ASP.NET code directly to Silverlight? Thanks for the question, Jeremy. No, there is not, at least not that I am aware of. With Silverlight, there's some differences, because with ASP.NET, you're going to have the full .NET framework available to you on the server side, and with Silverlight, you're only going to have a subset of that due to the restrictions of running on a client machine. So it's not going to be an exact one-to-one mapping there. But most of your rendering code and things of that nature should be very similar, if not exact, that you could almost copy and paste that. Okay, the next question is the webinar available for download? Yes, we'll make it available for download probably tomorrow sometime, and we will send out an email with the presentation, the Q&A, and a link to the video to where you can view it on our website probably sometime tomorrow. When will the Silverlight Edition become commercially available? Okay, right now we're in beta 1. We're probably going to be pushing another beta out towards the end of May. You can use the beta live in your commercial products, so we have a Go Live license available on the beta. And we're probably looking for the final release to be somewhere towards the middle to end of summer, would be my guess, so probably an August time frame. All right, next question here. Oh, they're starting to pour in here, so I've got to get my thing lined out here. All right, is there any limit to how many spatial objects a layer can handle? And that question is from Juan. Well, there's no theoretical limit anyways. You know, if you're using, I mean, you're going to be restricted if you're, it all depends on how you're doing it. If you're doing it client side, you're going to be restricted to memory and things of that nature. If you're doing it server side, it can be probably just the restrictions of your data source. So if it's a shapefile, I believe the largest shapefile you can have is 1 gigabyte. But So virtually there's no limit. If you have a scenario of how many you need or how many you want, please post that on the discussion forum of what you're wanting to do, and we can lay out kind of a best practice or how we would go about architecting if you have a large number of spatial objects that you want to have in a layer. Okay, looks like Nate asked when the next Silverlight beta is scheduled for release. That'll be the end of May, is what the plan is for that. Okay. In a Silverlight app, this is from Edgar. In a Silverlight app, where are the maps located? If I have a 30 megabyte map, where will it be stored? That's a great question, Edgar. It'll be stored where you decide it to be stored. You've got choices. You can either store it on the server side and build a kind of a thunking layer or a controller that will pass the data down to the client via just an image, a rendered image already, or just as a stream that way. Or you can also save it down to the client in the isolated storage system. And the decision you're going to make on that is, if you have a 30 megabyte download, is it going to be too slow or too fast for your end users to do? So in Silverlight, that's one of the architectural things you always have to ask yourself: is the trade-off of having it down low going to outweigh the waiting of pulling it down at least the first time? But you have the choice to have it either place. Okay. All right. The next question is from Alfonso. Can I use Map Suite web controls to represent layers from Oracle Spatial or PostGIS using a simple spatial query? You can do that in our desktop and our web edition and our services edition. We currently do not have support for that in our Silverlight edition. At least we don't have a sample for it. It may be able to be done via the sample or via the Silverlight edition through a server-side thunking layer again, but I'm not exactly sure how that would be implemented. But certainly it can be done natively through the web edition and the desktop edition and the services edition. Okay. Other than shapefiles, what formats do you plan to support? That's a question from Alex, and a very good one. Well, we're going to plan to support all sorts of different formats, just like our other products do. Currently, Silverlight has just native support for shapefiles and WMS and some other ones that are server-based along those lines. Like our web edition and our desktop edition have support for Oracle Spatial, SQL 2008 Spatial, PostGRE GIS. We're going to have support for tab files. We're going to have an extension that will have support for personal geodatabases, I believe ArcSDE, I believe several other formats as well. I don't have all of them. And then on the raster side, we have support for, in our other products, we have support for Mr. SID, ECW, JPEG 2000, GeoTIFF, and there may be another one or two in there. And we'll also have an extension to support GDAL for other raster imagery. And that was the other thing on the extension. We're going to be having an OGR extension that will support any OGR data formats. So format should not be an issue. And the other thing is if we don't support a format even through all of those, you can still extend from our feature layer and build the support yourself. All you really need to know to build a feature layer is how to retrieve shapes via a bounding box, and it can work with our products that way. So, very good question, Alex. All right, the next question is, how can I use my GPS local data for health facilities by this software? Not sure exactly what you mean by that question. I guess if you have points that show your health facilities, you could plot them on the map of where their location is. You could give them custom symbologies to show a status of the health facility, whether it is its current occupation level, or its current number of doctors, or current number of patients, or fatality rate, or things of that nature. So it's kind of a general question there, but certainly you can use the product to do a whole host of different things, from doing an informational display. All right, any other questions before we wrap up? It looks like we've got about 3 minutes left. And again, we will, if we can find a way, we'll cut and paste all of these questions out as well and send them along with the email that has the link to the presentation and to the video and to these questions. So. All right, looks like that's all the questions then. I appreciate everybody for attending, and I would invite you again to attend our next webinar on Wednesday, May 13th, and that'll talk a little bit more about extending our layers and building custom support in for your own layers, and that'll be applicable to all of our products, whether it be services, Silverlight, web, desktop, etc. So again, thank you for attending the webinar, and if you have any questions or anything else, feel free to contact us either via the discussion forums or by calling our 1-800 number. Thank you.